These horrific final moments of Dr. Alfred, who was abandoned in a sea filled with sharks, serve as an apt introduction to Dr. Alfred's imminent demise. One of the most beautiful sights in all of Los Angeles is the serene Catalina Channel, which is a light and water show like no other. The water around these parts is home to a wide variety of marine life, including the graceful seagulls, pelicans, and dolphins that are known for their lively antics. Since the beginning of known history, people have been crossing the channel to go from Santa Catalina Island to the mainland of Southern California. This connection has existed for as long as anyone can remember. However, during the early part of the 20th century, ruthless predators hid in the depths of these warm waters. Dr. Alfred Wilkes had just concluded his shift at the George's Street Receiving Hospital in Los Angeles on Friday, July 27, 1935. At the time, it was the 27th of July. Barney Wilkes, his son, was 23 years old and had just left San Pedro for Avalon, where he was going to meet his father in the evening. The two individuals intended to sail their vessel via the Catalina Channel, which is sometimes referred to as the San Pedro Channel, in order to reach Santa Catalina Island from the mainland of Southern California. As they disengaged the knots in the cords that had them bound, 58-year-old Dr. Alfred began the engine expertly, and it hacked and sputtered in response. But it did not start. He again hauled the pull start rope, this time with more force, and the engine hummed and purred to life as the boat sliced through the water. As soon as the ropes were cast away, the boat was liberated to gently rock back and forth in the water. Dr. Alfred expertly navigated the boat away from the dock and into the Catalina Channel as the lights of the harbor and the land gradually vanished into the distance. The scent of the salty ocean was thick in the air, and the only other sounds they could hear were the breaking waves and the boom of the outboard motor. It was a humbling sensation to be so small in the grand scheme of existence and to be at the whim of the forces of nature. Their boat was the only sign of life for them in the entire vastness. They were startled out of their trance by the choking and spurting sound that their boat engine made as it frantically sucked down the last remaining drops of gasoline. They had forgotten to check the gasoline level while they were at the dock, and the two of them exchanged stares as the boat began floating aimlessly. The motor's constant hum had suddenly shifted, and the boat was paddling in circles. Dr. Alfred tried to start the engine with the pull start rope, but it didn't work. They had only gone a third of the way on their 20-mile trip. Their hearts sank at the thought of being stuck in the middle of the sea at night. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. At the back of their boat, there was an explosion because a spark had started the engine. This made the situation much worse. The boat's hull had been damaged by the explosion, and water began to leak in. They grabbed anything they could to stop it, but no matter how fast they tried to scoop the water out, it came in 10 times faster. They could see the waterline creeping up the side of the boat. As the boat began to tilt, they tried to fix the holes, but they were big and there were many of them. The boat was becoming more unsteady and sinking with every second that went by, so they had to jump into the water. Before Dr. Alfred stood on the gun, and Barney did the same thing and rushed into the room. The two people were exhausted from emptying the boat of water when they came to the decision that swimming to land was not an option. As a result, they chose to hang on to the flipped hull in the expectation that assistance would arrive in the near future. They were fully at the mercy of the rip current as well as the bitter cold at this point in time. They spent the entire night clinging to the overturned boat and using it as a makeshift life raft as they struggled to keep their heads above water as they were adrift in the lake. As the temperature continued to plummet, the howling cold winds forced them to shiver and their teeth to chatter, despite the fact that they were already drenched and fatigued. They were drenched to the skin by the water, and as soon as tiredness started to set in, they struggled to stay afloat despite being hit by the flowing waves. Their bodies were saturated to the bone by the water. They were beginning to feel more and more fatigued as they stared at one another, which brought this realization to both of their attention. Dr. Alfred urged Barney to keep his composure, saying that assistance would arrive in a short while. They were exhausted to the point where the muscles in their bodies were burning, but they were resolved to make it through this test of survival. The looks on their faces conveyed a conflicting mixture of fear and determination at the same time. As the first glimpse of dawn made its way into the room, the conversation came to an end. Over the horizon, Dr. Alfred's strength was beginning to fail, and the fact that he had spent the whole night clinging to the boat had rendered his fingers and arms numb. It was plain to see that he was experiencing a panic attack. Barney was quick to react and was able to save him as a result of his actions. After losing his grip on the boat and falling into the ocean, Barney got on top of the overturned vessel and began to pull his father to safety just before he fell under the water. However, right before his father got completely out of the water, a shark that had been lurking beneath the waves and had its beady eyes set on a probable meal attacked, biting Dr. Alfred on the ankle. The shark had been looking for a meal the entire time it had been hiding beneath the waves. Before the shark could pull him beneath the sea, Barney was able to rescue him and pull him out of the water. The man then turned his attention to the depths of the water, where he saw nothing but the motion of the waves. The shark was nowhere to be found. Unfortunately, the blood that had flowed from his grandfather's ankle had stained the water, which, in a very short period of time, attracted additional sharks. This was a bad situation for everyone involved. Instinctively, he tried to pull his exhausted father to the peak of the hull as the sharks crept closer. But before he could succeed, Dr. Alfred slipped and fell back into the sea. The sharks were getting closer. As they got closer, there were more than a dozen sharks swimming around them in a circle. Barney was successful in approaching him. When one of the sharks broke the surface of the water, it displayed an aggressive stance by gaping its mouth open. He kicked and struck it while its teeth gnashed into his face only a few inches away. He could make out the sound of the wood breaking apart as a result of the ferocity of the shark's attack as it thrashed around. To our great relief, the shark decided not to continue its attack and went away. As the shark charged toward Barney and banged against the side of the boat, Barney's eyes widened in fear. Back into the depths offers Barney the possibility of rescuing his father from the water and preventing him from drowning. Another shark bit Barney in the ankle with its serrated teeth as he was lying down on top of the boat and attempting to grab his father's hand. He gave the shark a powerful kick, which connected with its nose and forced it to release its grip on his leg. The focus of his attention was then brought back to his father, and he was able to successfully pull him back on top of the hull while his father's body was being extracted from the water. A school of sharks attacked Barney's father. His injuries were severe. Barney was horrified to see that one of the sharks had gotten to him and ripped chunks of flesh from his abdomen. Suddenly, the honking of a purser ship named Excellent brought an end to the lethal attack. The sharks vanished beneath the waves as quickly as they had emerged. The crew members of the ship quickly lowered their ladders and rescued the duo from the jaws of death around them. They listened as Barry recounted their terrifying experience before rushing hysterically toward the species of shark that attacked the two men on that day is still a mystery.